For most of us in Nigeria, it was like COVID didn't even happen. So something must have cushioned that. It's easy not to see it because it doesn't look tangible to the eye, but the Anchor Borrowers program achieved a great deal. And that's why we are saying, look, let's institutionalize it instead of leaving it as an intervention. If this government leaves now, the next government may just throw it overboard. These are some of the things that we are talking about. And all these things happen, why? Because we have not been able to develop a system to deliver on our expectations or goals.
Our planet is changing and the clock is ticking. But amidst this crisis, there is hope, innovation, and resilience. Join me each week. The environment which you live is very much alive as I uncover the truths, the challenges, and the champions of our environment, because the future depends on what we do. I still want to welcome you to this great program, The Living Earth, where we get to look at our environment, we get to look at every other facet of it that interface with us humans and how effective our interaction on it has been. Because if we're not doing this from an informed standpoint and we keep thinking that what will be, we all know that what will be will not actually be. So today I have the DG of Nigerian Agric Business Group with me in the person of Dr. Manzo Daniel Megiri to talk to us about how we can cope with the prevailing situations and how is Agric actually doing. In most developed countries, good standard farm feed thousands of people. But in our own Nigerian peculiar African context, it's peasant farmers that are in that space. And there don't seem to be much business out of it. When Agric becomes real business, it can go a long way to diversify our economy, to break this mono-economic system that we've been running as a country and make things better and easier. We are all familiar with the fact that food has become so expensive. You remember back then, when a mudu of gari is like 50 naira, 100 naira, you don't have much value attached to food. But lately, trust me, if you give somebody money and give the person a bag of foods or something, the person will probably prefer the food because it's becoming more scarce and scarce by the day. Doctor, you're welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Talking about Agric Business Group, right? Yes. Let's have a broad background of what it is all about.
The Nigeria Agric Business Group is a private sector-led organization that focuses on private players and advises government on policy and direction. Basically, that's what we do.
How long has this been in existence?
12 years.
How has Agric been like transiting it from where it has always been to become business?
The major challenge we have had has to do with the fact that as a country, and to an extent, the whole of Africa, we've approached agriculture from the perspective of development. So this left our farmers kind of unprepared to create a business out of it. You'll find out that mostly our farmers will not understand what the economics of production is, and therefore they do not work for profitability in farming. Basically, they just produce whatever comes good. Like somebody will say, dig a hole, throw a seed in, and go and pray. In other climes where deliberate effort has been put to create a business out of agriculture, a lot of research and development has gone into it, to the extent that the weather elements have been properly studied and understood. And then, of course, remediations, mitigations, and resilience mechanisms have been developed for agriculture to withstand those weather elements. Here, to an extent, we've not been able to achieve that.
How far has your organization been able to drive or fill in the gap in this space, looking at the number of years that you've really been in existence? So how many farms have you been able to
The Nigeria Agric Business Group has a council that is populated by value chain actors associations. So when I say value chain actors associations, we are talking about the All Farmers Association of Nigeria. We are talking about the Rice Farmers Association. We are talking about the maize farmers, the tomato farmers, the soybean farmers, the cocoa farmers. They constitute the council of the Nigeria Agric Business Group. But coming to talk about what the Nigeria Agric Business Group has been able to do, we've done quite a lot in terms of policy direction and advice. For example, we implemented the MIRA, that is micro reforms in agribusinesses. It was a project that was funded by Agric and was essentially meant to structure agribusinesses and position them for funding. And that resulted in the tomato policy that banned the importation of bulk tomato paste and brought in an investment of over $500 million into the tomato sector. Further to that, we are instrumental to the revision of the new Fertilizer Act. Before then, we had less than 20 fertilizer blending plants in Nigeria, but as a result of that policy reform, today we have over 50 fertilizer blending plants. We have been part and parcel of the Revised Seed Act. And as I speak to you, we are working with the International Seed Council to look at what the bottlenecks are to enable players take advantage of the provisions of the Revised Seed Act to create a business in it. This is the first time that a law has been established to give players in that sector patent rights, so that whatever innovations they bring into seed development, they can have rights for it and earn money. Before it wasn't. So it's a whole gamut of things. At the moment, we are working on 2 other policies that we also hope will eventually get to become laws. One of them is climate smart agriculture. We are developing an implementation framework for climate smart agriculture to mainstream climate smart agricultural practices. That's a major challenge that Nigeria has, and that's why we cannot compete internationally. Most of the time when we export commodities, they are rejected. It's because people don't trust our sanitation, they don't trust our hygiene, and therefore they are not sure whether they should buy from us or not. And that makes us uncompetitive. Another thing that we are looking at seriously is that we are in discussions to see how we can encourage the federal government to allow the Nigerian Commodity Exchange to be private sector driven, because that is the key that can turn the economy of this country around. If you consider that 70% of Nigerians find livelihood in agriculture, then you know that agriculture is our area of natural competitiveness, not oil. If we don't put the soft infrastructure that agriculture requires, we will never be able to attain that level of competitiveness. So we have to do all these things. But of course, we understand also that government does not have to be able to do everything. But players in this agribusiness space understand this, and they naturally will have to bring these facts to the government, because we represent the agribusiness private sector in agriculture. So we bring these facts to government, and we work with government to develop these policies, subsequent laws that will emanate from this, so that the enabling environment for agribusiness would naturally be engendered.
Dr. Mose, you're doing quite a whole lot in interfacing with the government to make Agric real business. I would like us to take on a few of these policy frameworks that you're working on one at a time. The one that got my interest most is the one that you talked about, the seed production or seed multiplication and all that in the country. We've seen like National Agricultural Seed Council, right? Doing a whole lot of promotion, doing a whole lot of sensitization around community. And then when you get down to the grassroots, the community heads and all that to tell you a few of those. In fact, most of those their actions or activities are just political campaigns, and when they are done, it doesn't trickle down to an everyday man in those communities to know what to do practically with accessing improved seed. And the most disheartening aspect again is when you now get to most of those seed companies, they will tell you, okay, they've been allocated land for seed multiplication, but the enabling environment for that to thrive has not really been. So I'm thinking, now that you're doing a whole lot of interface with government, what aspect of things are you working on that can ease up this aspect? Because once people that are into seed multiplication and all that can really do it effectively as business, I'm sure it will trickle down to an everyday farmer. And then that means more food can be produced, we can have access to cheaper and more quality products in the market.
Saying that issues about seeds are politicized is entirely misplaced. Seed development is a very, very, very intellectual and capital-intensive venture, and therefore it's difficult to invest adequately in this environment if you are not adequately incentivized. I'm going to tell you one thing. Until we get to a point where we are able to link up the upstream and the downstream segments of agriculture, where you are able to activate a price and market discovery for farmers across board, you will never be able to break through. And the issue is this. Take tomatoes, for example. The man producing tomatoes in Kano does not have a link with the market in Lagos or Port Harcourt or Warri.
Exactly.
He doesn't even know how tomato sells. He only produces. But when you have a mechanism or a platform that enables the catalyzation of price discovery, market discovery, a farmer on his farm can sit down and can receive SMS on the price of tomato today in Warri. He can receive a forecast of the market scenarios for a whole year.
What it's going to be like.
Yes, and he can decide whether to grow tomato during the rainy season and during the dry season. And he has an idea of what he's going to make.
And equally, how to access those markets.
It's more of a systems thinking. If you like, you can call it community of practice. Rather than everybody doing one thing or the other in isolation, independent of everybody and are not known. I can assure you that despite this food, the inflation that you are talking about today, there are places today where you have perpetual food gluts.
And it's wasting.
Yeah, but we do not have a mechanism of discovering that there is excess food somewhere. We do not have a mechanism of knowing that food is wasting. And therefore, and I'm going to give you an example. Go to Benue State.
If I'm going to mention
there is perpetual glut of gari, fruits, just name it. And here you are, you buy one orange here in Abuja for 100 naira.
And a whole bunch of it is wasted in.
And I'm going to tell you one thing. The fruit farmers in Benue don't even bother to harvest unless they see somebody to buy. They will never waste their energies to harvest.
Yeah, because it's almost like a huge waste.
So if there's nobody around,
why am I harvesting?
They just allow it to ripe and fall to the ground and rot.
Within your scope of operation, how are you bringing in this? Because this is where the main issue is. For instance, in Cross River now, vegetables grow in the wild. So different seasons come, like now it's getting dry. Most of the afang, ugu and all that is going to get completely wasted. It's just there in the wild, occupying maybe farmland spaces, and they will just leave it there because nobody, like you rightly say, nobody is making demand to buy. So how can Agric business be developed around such micro structures?
That's why I talk about the commodity exchange. If you have a commodity exchange, it takes care of that. It de-risks agriculture and it opens it up for insurance. Once you are able to qualify the risk in agri businesses, insurance will flow in and private capital will come in imaginable quantum. But because you do not have this system that takes care of all this, everybody is doing his thing the way he understands it. Building up to the commodity exchange thing, we have come up with the aggregator models where you have companies, instead of going to farm, what you simply do is to look at an area where there is problem with market linkages and you aggregate the produce. You put the infrastructure in place and then link them to the market. It's a specialization in agribusiness that is just coming to bear. Our landscape is dominated by smallholder farmers who are at the subsistence level. And therefore, for the big companies or for the big players, it's difficult to go and pick half a ton here, quarter a ton there, 1 ton there, and all one. So you need an aggregator. If you like, you can call them the middlemen. Being an aggregator is by far more than just being a middleman. A middleman is somebody that waits until a buyer comes and he quickly comes in and takes advantage and takes a commission. But what an aggregator will do will simply look at, okay, oranges are here. Maybe the orange season is 6 months. The remaining 6 months, there are no oranges. So what do I do? Am I going to aggregate these oranges and process them to orange juice concentrate? Or am I going to just provide cooling that enables this orange to hold the biochemical, then extend the shelf life by 6 months so that during scarcity I can sell? And then, of course, I can arrange with the farmers and say, okay, look, we do warehouse receipting with you. You brought in 1 ton of oranges. Here's a receipt. We are going to store it, and this is the cost of storage per month or for this whole period. And so when we sell at this time of scarcity, it will be Y. And therefore, when we sell, we take out the cost of storage, and then we take our commission, and then you make more. You are going to be able to create this symbiotic relationship. You build trust and confidence, and then the farmers are able to just harvest and come and put it there.
How far are we in doing this aggregation, in making sure that this really works? Because there is a whole lot of technicality, policy, and all that goes into what you're saying. And because what an everyday farmer is just wanting to know is, okay, so when can I have a team to work with to make sure that my oranges don't go bad because I don't have any storage facility, can't access the market or the predictions because of my smartphone, which means so much is hinged on what the agribusiness school can come up with in terms of...
Our post-harvest losses stand at a minimum of 40%. And that also now goes to show that the food scarcity they talk about is actually man-made. Imagine if...
So many people have said so because the rains are there, the sun is normal and everything. So it's actually man-made.
Farmers are producing. We reckon that they may not be producing enough. But even out of the little that they are producing, we are losing a minimum of 40%.
40%?
Yes, minimum, yeah. But like I said, every farmer produces just for the sake of producing. We don't produce for specific needs. And the major challenge, like I told you, is that the absence of standards, the absence of certifications makes it such that it is difficult to make agriculture predictive. Even the banks, they don't fund agriculture, you know this. It's a high-risk sector, first and foremost. But secondly, they don't qualify the risk in agriculture. And until you de-risk it to the point that the banks or the funding institutions can understand how to qualify the risk in agriculture.
So that you're taking a calculated risk.
Yes.
So thank God that we are talking with you now, and bulk of this thing, like I said earlier from what you've told us now, is still government policies and your interface with them. For this aggregating of some of these local farmers and small holdings, how far are we on it? Because there seems to be a whole lot you're working with, and it's been like 12 years now. We've talked about the tomato that is working, but a whole lot is still like in the pot, cooking. So at what point are we in what? So that an everyday person listening to you today will know.
Okay. Everything like life is an evolution. Ultimately, our goal is to have a private sector-driven commodities exchange.
So how close
we have a commodities exchange, but it's 100% government owned.
That's what I'm saying.
And it can never serve
the purpose. So
and the reason is simple. Civil servants are not mandated to deliver on business goals.
Sure, because government has never been a good
business. They are mandated to deliver on social goals, social targets, welfare, and all that, but not business goals. So as long as we are unable to get the private sector to drive our commodity exchange, we will fall short of the expectation. However, like I said, what we are simply doing now is to prepare the ground for it, because we see that government will not have a choice but to make this happen.
So are we pushing this through the lawmakers?
Oh, yes, of course. Like I said, you can wake up today and just pronounce that, oh, I've given the commodity exchange to the private sector, come and take. Even if they come and take it, what happens? If the system
is not well structured.
So, and that's what the Nigeria Agric Business Group is doing. Of course, this aggregator business model that we talk about is what the Anchor Borrowers Program achieved. Okay, you know that the Anchor Borrowers Program really achieved a great deal.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot outcry from the public domain that bulk of the people that access these funds are not real farmers. Have you tried to work on that?
Yes.
That most of them are actually portfolio farmers. We've gone to most of the interiors and you tell you, I have this large farm, but I can't access that funding. It's mostly people that are not real, and that money is plugged into a non-agric sector.
What I'm going to tell you authoritatively is that there are criteria to access the funds for the Anchor Borrowers Program. The major criteria is that you must have farmers that you are working with. These are the farmers that are supposed to produce. It's not a perfect system, but I can tell you, we have achieved more than 100% increase in production of rice in Nigeria. For the first time in Nigeria's recent history, we had excess production of maize. We had an excess production of 2 million metric tons of maize.
And we didn't see it reflected in the price we are buying in the market?
No, it was. Price of maize crashed to 120,000 naira per metric ton from almost 400,000. I deal in that sector and I buy maize. Even as we speak today, it's less than 300,000. But what may actually wipe out that gain is the price of diesel. And I'm going to tell you, for a truck of maize that leaves any point, the minimum you pay for it is 1 million naira. For a truck to just convey 30 tons of goods from the north to Lagos, it's around 1 million naira.
So how are you not going to deal? Because this seems to just drain off the gains of the Anchor Borrower scheme. And
of course. So the major challenge we have today is the cost of transportation. It will shock you to know that a trailer load of goods from Maiduguri to Lagos can cost as much as 3 million and above. What is the worth of the good in the trailer?
I mean,
so by the time this thing gets to Lagos, the gains are wiped out.
Off.
But that does not mean that within the sector or within the Anchor Borrowers Program, there are no gains. There are gains there, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I think what we are saying to government is this. Yes, we may not have done a perfect job with the Anchor Borrowers Program, but it has had its impact, very positive impact. And therefore, what we want is, let's migrate it from an ad hoc intervention and institutionalize it. Because that's what we are looking at. It reflects...
So what would be the difference?
No. At the moment, Central Bank is the one implementing the Anchor Borrowers Program. Of course, that's not their mandate. They are not experts in agriculture.
You know, so many people have actually said that.
Yeah, so what we are saying is this, and I can tell you, if it were not for the Anchor Borrowers Program, the impact of COVID would have been a lot more terrible within Nigeria. So those funds that went to the smallholder farmers serve to cushion the economy. Because whether you understand it or not, and many people don't really do, the Nigerian economy is only 30% formal. 70% of the Nigerian economy is informal.
Exactly.
You understand? And this was the first time a shock went straight into that 70% informal sector. Because when the lockdown came, all farm inputs were held back. Foods that farmers harvested, taken to market, were held in transit and they rot. Everything just froze. And you can imagine if that buffer was not there, it would have been a lot worse. For most of us in Nigeria, it was like COVID didn't even happen. So something must have cushioned that. It's easy not to see it because it doesn't look tangible to the eye, but the Anchor Borrowers program achieved a great deal. And that's why we are saying, look, let's institutionalize it instead of leaving it as an intervention. If this government leaves now, the next government may just throw it overboard. These are some of the things that we are talking about. And all these things happen, why? Because we have not been able to develop a system to deliver on our expectations or goals.
Our planet is changing and the clock is ticking. But amidst this crisis, there is hope, innovation, and resilience. Join me each week. The environment which you live is very much alive as I uncover the truths, the challenges, and the champions of our environment, because the future depends on what we do